Al here, RC Speedster 100, back to part 2 with the Wltoys 019 2025 run to 100. Got Paul and Mike there for the challenge they have going on. If you see my first video, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Just want to go over the car real quick. This is how far we got, if hopefully you got this far. We're going to go over just the drivetrain, basically, real quick. I'm going to try to make these videos as quick as I can so I don't waste too much time. Obviously, depending how far you go with these things, it could take hours upon days to go over a lot of things, but we're just keeping it simple. Alright, so just quickly look at this. I have not cracked these things open. This was my first Wltoys run car here. I have never changed the gears, and it's been 3 years. This car's been through speed runs and bashing, basically. I've never changed the gears, and there you go. They're still perfect. I just changed the gear out to put the stock pinion and spur gear in, and I didn't have an extra one of the adjustables to fit these 540 motors in, so I had to just make this to fit. Anyways, it's going to use the stock gearing. Obviously it's that mod 0.7 gear ratio, whatever they are, which good luck trying to find gears for, but these are the stock ones. And I'm going to run this thing with the stock. Like I said, my other one I built for my son, that thing's a brick, and on the Wltoys 2S I was hitting 55 all day long with a 55 kV motor. So this is obviously a higher kV. Just a quick tip, if anybody wants to know, this is a Red Dog. Believe it or not, they are the same as a suppressed hobby rocket, the one that has the open vents like this. It's the same rotor. That's what I replaced this one with. That's how I modified this one a little more. This is an 8,000 kV motor at 0, or it's like 5 degrees when I checked it. So the motor screams. But again, is it 2S? Yes. Can I run 3S? I have done it. You're not supposed to. It will get hot. Just FYI. This is a drive shaft loop. Again, to eliminate the headache, and we're trying to make this simple. Just go to Mike there, Kobe, RC Speedrunner. He's got metal ones. He's got titanium ones. Whatever. He's got all the parts. Drive shafts. He's got dog bones for it. He's got everything for it. So just to get rid of this idea, just get the metal one. You don't need a center drive shaft. All right, so I lock the differential in the rear. How I lock them? It's pretty simple. Everybody does their own thing. I do it this way. It works for me. JB Weld. It's a 2-part epoxy. It's liquid. Crack them open. Clean everything out. Brake cleaner, whatever you need to clean all that grease out of there. Just make sure they're clean. Blow them off. Just pour it in there. Spin the gears a little bit. Pour a little more on top. Close it all up. Lock it up. When you let it sit, do not let it sit on its side like this. The problem is it's going to all the weight will just sit on one side, and this thing will be way out of balance. That's the reason why I don't like using the earplugs people use. They use all weird stuff to put in there. I don't. It unbalances pretty badly. And it sounds funny, like it wouldn't make a difference something this small, but it actually does. It'll chew up some gears, because you got to remember, this thing's spinning a lot faster than any of this. So just sit it up normal. Anywhere. I don't care if you put it this way or this way. It's a little messy. It's fine. You still have time. Once you get it all together, just clean it all off. Make sure there's nothing in the teeth. That's all you got to do. It's real simple. Grease. Yes, I make my own little concoction. It works for me. I've been using it, as you can tell, 3 years of running this thing, and I've never cracked it open. It's wheel bearing grease that you buy at Napa or wherever any auto store. It's wheel bearing grease. Make sure you get the thin, the normal stuff, and I mix it with white lifting grease. Make a little concoction out of it and drop it right in there. Make sure you have enough in there and close it up. You're good. I did not lock the front. I will put heavier weight oil in the front. Personal preference. I've done it both where I've done it where locking both, locking front. It's a personal preference. People say, oh, you gotta lock out the front. If you want, go ahead. For me, it didn't work. I believe it's just how you drive. So for me, the car I did 143 was a lock diff in the rear. So it's personal preference. If you want to, put the locked in the front, and I just put heavier weight oil in the diff. I do not have any here. What I have is some really heavy stuff, which I think it's 500K, which is like pretty thick. 200K works pretty well. If you want to put the 500K, it's fine. I have it in another car. I think it works pretty well. There you go. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. The big tip here is I hear people shredding these gears out. Again, 3 years, bashing. As long as it's set in there right, it's not going to do anything. This is the reason why they strip. This is a stock gear. It's not bolted. It just slides on, right? This has to have, good movement. You got to make sure this is free. If this is not free and it binds up, it's either going to push the gear back or push the gear forward. So, least resistance is this thing being free. It means it's not going to bind if this thing has least resistance. If there's no resistance in it, that's where it goes. It's not going to bind somewhere and try to go for it. It doesn't do that. It goes by least resistance. You can tell it just goes by least resistance. When you put this together, just make sure that everything you put in there is correct. We know that they put crazy stuff in there, but just make sure that this can slightly move. That's all you're looking for. It's kind of hard to see on the camera, but there's very slight movement, but there is movement. This drive shaft can go back and forth. Just make sure it's free to go back and forth. Alright? So that's what you're doing. So you're going to go back and forth, you're fine. As long as it's free. What else here? We got that. So I'm using stock gearing. Again, once you put this brace on with the top mount, it actually somewhat should spread apart. Just slightly. Which, believe it or not, helps out with the gearing. Like I said, if this thing's too tight, you can feel it. You can look at the gear bouncing around. If it's too tight, it's gonna bounce. If it's not tight, it just sits. Look, there's no movement anymore. That's the least resistance. So just try to keep it the best you can, like that. So I use a different oil. You can use whatever you want. This is, again, personal preference. This is what I use. It's the 3-to-1 oil. It's a machine oil. I put that inside all my bearings. Just put it in your bearings. Lube it up in there. It'll be fine. So, that's that. And once you put this together, again, it should be just a smooth, and like I said, a little bit of play, be fine. There you go. Let's see, I don't want to waste too much time. I got a lot of tips here and nobody really does, or nobody wants to show you, I should say, and I'm going to throw one for you. All I ask for you is just throw a shout out. My name, Al, said, hey, this is Al's tip, and it worked really well. If it doesn't, well, don't say my name. Steering. You can get the lockout one. What I do, which I'm going to change, just tighten it all the way down. It becomes a lockout. You know, there's no servo saver there. You don't need one on high-speed runs. You don't want anything moving on the steering. Here's the trick. Everybody knows how sloppy these things are. Yep. You see that? A bunch of people did a bunch of tips on how to make that with less slack in it. I tried them all and they don't work. It works very once and that's it. You can try to do some crazy idea of putting bearings in, which I tried. It's a pain. Easiest trick. I believe it's Remo RC. They're a little 1/16 scale RC, I think it is. Those are the screws with the sleeves on them. They fit perfectly. There's no play. It's tight. It's perfect. It was like it was meant for it. That's what I use. I'll throw, I think I see it on eBay. I'll throw a little video, a little picture of it, what I'm talking about. And yeah, just replace those things. You don't need to put that in. The downfall, it works with the plastics. It does not work with the metal ones because the metal ones are threaded. I mean, you might find one that's like it that can go into normal thread, but if you're using a plastic one, tip, two things you could do. Clean it really nice, take it apart, glue it, put it back together, and crank this thing down. And there you go. No more servo whatsoever. It's tight. So it's the normal. Or if you want to get crazy, go buy the one that eliminates. It's an eliminator. They have them. I don't think I have one here. Oh. They look like this. You know, there's no. They get rid of they eliminate the servo saver. Find the one that fits the bearings and all that. Again, I'm trying to keep it simple for everybody. Nobody wants to get all crazy on this thing. Totally understandable. If you do, have at it. I'm just trying to get people up to 100 the fastest and simplest way. And so far what I learned, this is the easiest way. The only thing you're buying is the screws, which are dirt cheap. That's one tip. Nobody really does. Again, just if you like that tip, just throw a shout out and be happy. Let's get this thing all, button up here for as far as the drivetrain goes. And stay tuned for my next video. We're going to be doing the suspension. A couple little tricks there. You can start almost noticing how the way the suspension sits. Yeah. Yeah, I'll show you a little trick on that one. And we'll get into it more. If you want to do the Mod 1 gearings, again, it's a pain. I have to modify mine completely. Shaving them down, it's more of a process. You're going to have to eliminate this motor bracket because it won't fit there. You can move it back either way. But if you are going to go with this, it's a lot more involved. And I would just try to keep it simple for you guys. Stock gear, yes, they're smaller, but I think we could do 100. I really do. I think we can push this thing to 100. Little tips here and there, hopefully help out. Stay tuned for the next video, and like and subscribe, and check out the other guys. They're doing their builds, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.